For this lesson, we're officially moving on to Unit 8, and Unit 8 will continue with trigonometry, but we're going to look at situations where we do not have a right angle triangle. So the first tool we're going to be looking at is called the sine law. And the sine law has two variations. We have solving for a side, and when I'm solving for a side, I have little a over sine big A is equal to little b over sine big B, and little c over sine big C. And then when I'm solving for an angle, I have sine big A over little a, sine big B over little b, and sine big C over little c. So that's going to be our equations, and I'll show you how to use them in a moment. But before we get started, we have to go over how to label our not right angle triangles. So when I have a situation and I have a triangle and there is no right angle, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to label my angles with capital letters. So if you see here, I have big A, big C, and big B. And then right across from each capital letter is the corresponding side. So right across from big A is little a, right across from big B is little b, and right across from big C is little c. So the letters, doesn't matter which letter you use. We could have used S, P, K, whatever you want to use. The important piece is that our matching little letter is across from our capital letters on the angles. So how do we even use sine law? So I've given you an equation and I've shown you how to label. Let's actually get into how we use this thing. So there's a few situations when I can use sine law. And there's two different ways to think about it. The first one is if I have angle, angle, side. So if I have two angles and a side, I can always use sine law. The second option is if I have two sides and the opposite angle of one of the sides. Now, I find the description of those two situations very challenging to understand. So the way I like to think about it is I like to first start by labeling my triangle. So we have big A, B, and C on my angles. And across from big A is going to be little a. Across from big B is little b. And across from big C is little b. So in this case, we're looking for B. So what I need is I need two things. I need one full angle side pair. So see here how I have a value for big A and little a? I like to refer to that as a full pair. I have both the angle and side value. And then I have this little half pair where I have my capital B, I have the angle value, but I'm missing the side. So now we know that we have our B's circled and our A's circled. So this is how we use the equation. First of all, I'm looking for a side. I'm looking for the length of little b. So I'm going to be using this one here. Now, because I've circled the b's and I've circled the a's, I'm only going to use this part. Sine law is basically a few equations in one, and we only need to use the part with the letters that we're looking for. So now I'm just going to write out that equation, the part that I've underlined there. So we have A over sine big A equals B over sine big B. And the reason why we use this variation when we're looking for a side is it just makes our algebra easier. If you had decided to use the other one, you would have been able to get the answer just fine. So let's fill in all of our values. So little a is 6, big A is 58, little b is what we're looking for, and capital B is 75. So now what I'm going to do is I have a fraction equaling a fraction. So I'm just going to cross multiply here. So I'll have 6 times sine 75 is equal to b sine 58, like this. And now I want to get b all by itself. So I'm going to divide this side by sine 58. And I'm going to divide this side by sine 58. And the reason why I'm holding off on turning these into decimals is just to avoid rounding error. So it's just a good idea with this stuff to save your rounding until the very last step. So now I'm just going to put this thing into my calculator. And I will get 6.8 equals B. And again, similarly to our right angle triangles, we always want to take a look at that answer and think to ourselves, does that make sense with my triangle? Does it fit into the neighborhood of my other sides? And it absolutely does. So we are all set. And that is our final answer. Okay, let's do another example. So for case two sides in the opposite angle of one of the sides. So that's the situation we have here. We have two sides and then we have the one across from the 7. But again, I find this a little bit confusing to remember. So my process is I'm going to start by labeling my triangle. So I have my capital letters and I'm going to be looking for angle A. This is the angle that I'm looking for right here. So let's label our triangle. So across from big A is little a. Across from big C is little c, and across from big B is little b. Now we need to look for that full angle side pair. So if I look here, the only pair that I have values for both are big B and little b, so that's awesome. And then my half pair has to include the one I'm looking for and this 6, so that's my half pair there. So similarly to before, because I have A and B circled, I'm just going to use the A and B parts. And if I look up here, I'm solving for an angle, so I'm going to use this one and just the A and B parts because that's what I have circled. So let's write that out. Again, you can use the other variation. They're actually the exact same thing. Writing them this way doesn't change much. The only thing is this makes your algebra easier, so it's really up to you. So now that I've written out my formula, let's fill in some values. So we don't know big A, little a is 6, capital B is 75, and little b is 7. So now we have a fraction equaling a fraction, so I can just cross multiply. So I'll have 7 sine A is equal to 6 multiplied by sine 75. And now to get sine A all by itself, I need to divide out the 7. So we'll have sine A is equal to 6 times sine 75 all over 7. So I'm just going to put that into my calculator. 6 sine 75 divided by 7, and that will give me sine A equals 0.8279. Now this number is way too small for an angle. There are situations where it works, but very rarely. And that's a reminder that we need to just find A. This is the sine of A, but we just want A. So to do that, we have to use our sine inverse to undo that sine. There we go. So I'm just going to do second sine or sine inverse of 0.8279, and that will give me 56 degrees. And you'll notice our answer is just a little off. That's just rounding error from the other one, so no big deal. And that is our final answer. Okay, let's try another one, and then I want to give you a chance to try these on your own and check your answer. Okay, so first thing is I notice that I do not have a right angle triangle. So SOHCAHTOA is out. I'm going to have to use Sine Law. Next, I'm going to label my sides. So I'm looking for little k here. So little k is across from big K. Little j has to be across from big J. And then little l is across from big L. So now I need to make sure Sine Law works. So I'm going to look for a full pair. So do I have a full pair here? No, but can I get a full pair? Sure, let's just find this angle first here. So to find angle J, I have all my angles plus 85 plus 50 equal 180. So then I have J plus 135 equals 180. So that goes over to the other side. So sometimes you have to find all your angles first. So just be mindful of that before you think you can't use sine law. So now we have 45 degrees in here. Now that I found all my angles, now I look for my full pair. So if I look here, I have my full pair here, and then I have my little half pair right here. So because I'm looking for a side, my little letters go on the top of the equation. So we have little k over sine big K, little j over sine big J. And now we can fill in our values. So we're going to still be looking for little k. Capital K is 85. Little j is 6. And big J is 45. Next, because we have a fraction equaling a fraction, I'm just going to cross multiply. So we'll have k sine 45 is equal to 6 sine 85. And now to get k all by itself, we're just going to divide out that sine 45 again. So that will just give me 6 sine 85 divided by sine 45 gives me that k is 8.5. And that's our final answer. So what I want you to do is go through, try 2 on your own here, and you're going to be solving for p. Next, you're going to go to 3, and you're going to determine the value of little c here. And finally, for 4, you're going to find the value of capital B.